So you are over in the Hawaiian Islands.
Yes, sunny Hawaii, a great place to be, especially as winter approaches in the Northern Hemisphere.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm in the Los Angeles area, so we are in these places people seek, yes, to get away from that coldness. You have an amazing history, an amazing bio that I just read, and since your scope is just so amazingly vast, I've actually put some questions together here, and I think we're just going to sort of do it like a question and answer, if that's okay with you. You can expound.
I'm happy to do it.
Fantastic.
I'm happy to do it that way.
Excellent, excellent. I think, it's kind of easier on the listeners, and it's certainly easier on yours truly. So let's start with, help us, Nazi Germany and the Extraterrestrial Consortium, and Hans Kammler.
Oh, well, that's a huge question, Carol. I mean, that really is part of our history that has not been revealed to the world, really, in terms of exactly what it was that was happening in Nazi Germany during the war and immediately after the war, with its collapse and with things such as Operation Paperclip and people like Hans Kammler suddenly disappearing. And he was the head of the SS division that was responsible for the advanced technologies that were being utilized for the war effort. And most people believe that the Nazis were unsuccessful in that regard. And that is true to a limited extent, because in the research that I've done, really there was not one secret Nazi space program. There were in fact two. And this is really vital for the readers to kind of appreciate, or the listeners to appreciate, that at the same time as you had the Nazi SS, Himmler, Kammler developing their super weapons that they wanted to use in the war, and they were using all kinds of advanced technologies that were gained from ancient texts, ancient civilizations on the Earth, and even extraterrestrials, that at the same time as all that was happening, you actually had German secret societies such as the Vril, the Thule Society, and the Black Sun Society. These secret societies had a separate space program, an entirely different technology program that had been deployed even before the war started in South America and Antarctica. And so we actually have two programs with two different sets of technologies. One was kind of ultimately unsuccessful, but the other one was wildly successful.
Yes, and fortunately for us, it was not more successful. You touched on something, the Vril. This is a big fascination, and it's hard to substantiate any kind of hard knowledge. In fact, trying to track that back, we simply came upon a Bulwer-Lytton reference and from 1918, which certainly precedes the Second World War. Can you expound on the Vril? These were psychic women, correct?
Well, the Vril Society were a group of psychics that was formed in the 1919-1920 era. Mm-hmm. Maria Orsich was the primary German psychic involved with that. And there were others like Sigrun. And these women were able to establish communication psychically with a group of beings that called themselves extraterrestrials from the Aldebaran system, and also beings that were associated with the ancient Thule society, or the ancient Thule civilization, and this is where you get the connection with the Vril force.
So the Vril was
Lytton wrote about.
Yes, and so the Thule was an actual civilization, not just an organization. Is that right?
Well, that's right. The ancient, yes, the Thule was both. The Thule Society was established after the First World War in Germany, and that society was basically dedicated to re-establishing connections or learning as much as possible about this ancient Teutonic civilization called Hyperborea. And its capital was called Ultima Thule. And so that's where you actually have the origins of the Thule Society. So this society basically were German occultists who believed that through psychic means you could establish a reconnection with this ancient civilization. And they regarded with great reverence the work of Edward Bulwer Lytton, who wrote in 1871 the book called Vril, The Coming Race. And in there he talked about an ancient subterranean civilization with incredible psychic gifts and abilities and technologies, and that basically the Thule Society, this German esoteric group, believed that this was actually based on real events, or that this was a kind of fiction based on fact, what Bulwer Lytton had written about. And so the Thule Society were very intent on basically finding everything they could about the ancient Hyperborean civilization. And so that's where psychics like Maria Orsic and the other female mediums kind of came in. They were very important for the German Thule Society.
Oh, that's fascinating. And there, of course, have been some popular culture references to that. In fact, even I believe there was a Star Trek episode dealing with Ultima Thule, I think is how they pronounced it. But that's a very interesting connection, the ancient alien aspects and what we consider psychic mediumship, which there's not a hard and fast connection, actually. As I've pursued it, we think of psychic mediums and spiritualism for the most part.
Well, that's right, yes. Spiritualism is just one aspect of the psychic kind of spectrum of activities, but the people that are involved with the Thule Society, for them there was not the kind of separation between kind of hard science and the kind of psychic sciences, if you like, or soft science, that they saw psychic phenomena and the natural scientific phenomena as being kind of one and the same. Now, at the time, that was not something that was widely held in the West. Today, we kind of have more of that with quantum physics. So kind of like what the German scientists understood at that time, as our quantum physicists understand today, was that the consciousness of the observer and the phenomenon being observed, that these things were intertwined. And it's taken Western science taken decades for them to realize that. But the German scientists understood it very well at the beginning. Well, I think it's kind of like a cultural phenomenon. You look at after the First World War, Germany had lost; it was devastated, and so the Germans went through a period of deep introspection. It was like, how could we have lost this war? Why did we lose it? And so they went through a kind of introspective phase, and where it was like, okay, we got to reestablish connections to our roots. That if we reestablish those connections, we can actually become a great empire again. And so that's when they began to kind of like investigate their ancient histories, the lineage, the connection with the ancient Teutonic societies, Hyperborea, and the Ultima Thule. All of those things became important for the Germans, whereas with the victorious Allies, for them this was vindication of hard science and kind of like following that very hardcore, let's just kind of focus on facts and physical documentation. And that was successful for them, so they didn't think it was necessary to deviate from that.
Right. No need for that kind of introspection. Interesting. And then, of course, I once again, I'm back to the Aldebaran and the extraterrestrial connection for the Nazis. Any clues as to who the progenitor of that was, the first exponent?
Hyperborea,
yes.
Who was the first exponent of that one?
And also,
I think there's some.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, can you clear up, because I have some confusion about this, and some of our listeners could also have the Hyperborea Aldebaran connection. Yes, if any.
Sure. Okay. Well, Hyperborea is something that is mentioned in ancient Teutonic texts. That these texts refer to this civilization that existed way back in antiquity, just as we now kind of look back to Atlantis as somehow being part of kind of our ancient knowledge. For the Germans, the Teutonic text referred to this place called Hyperborea, an ancient northern civilization that was very powerful and very old, predating Atlantis. So that was important for them. What was interesting is that the kind of Aldebaran connection that Maria Orsic was kind of known for, was that she was psychically communicating with these beings that said that they were from Aldebaran, and that the philosophy of the Aldebarans was kind of very similar to the kind of Teutonic philosophies of a kind of master race that had achieved great developments and was able to develop really incredible technologies. That Orsic made this connection to the Aldebarans, and so there was this kind of correspondence between what she was being told psychically by the Aldebarans with what the ancient Teutonic text had spoken about in terms of the Hyperboreans. And so there is some connection between the two, and certainly that was something that Orsic was exploring, as well as, of course, the Thule Society, who really made Hyperborea the focus of all their activities.
Interesting. And was there ever any information that she received as to how that transpired? Did they land here? What was the provenance of that?
Well, the communication she received from the Aldebarans was basically she was psychometrically basically wrote down the detailed instructions for building a anti-gravity spacecraft. First it began with the engine, and then it became more elaborate as the time went on. And this was all designed to kind of like get the Vril Society and the Thule Society to build a spacecraft that could transport them to Aldebaran. And this became the kind of sine qua non of the Vril Society, that from the very beginning their focus was on building this spacecraft that they were given information from. So it's very similar to the scenario described in the movie Contact with Jodie Foster.
Interesting. Right.
There's a lot of parallels there. And the thing is that this is what the German secret societies began doing in the early 1920s. So this was more than a decade before Hitler came to power. They were already working on craft using the information that they had received from the Aldebarans, and also the information that they were able to receive through various expeditions to Tibet, Peru, Egypt, and other places of the world where a lot of this ancient knowledge was preserved in scrolls, or even maintained that there were some technologies that were still in existence. And so, yeah, the German secret societies were very prominent in doing that, and this is where a lot of their advances can be dated to in that period in the 1920s when the Thule Society was sponsoring a lot of these expeditions.